Imagine this. You're on a massive cargo ship. A job that's supposed to be completely routine, something done 1,000 times before, goes catastrophically wrong. This is the story of how a few small decisions, a couple of miscalculations, and one really crucial misunderstanding of physics led to an absolute tragedy. So let's piece together exactly what happened. Okay, so the scene is set. It's March 16th, 2024. The MV NAN BEI HU is anchored in the Philippines, loading up on nickel ore. The loading has to stop for a bit, so the crew figures, hey, perfect time to use this downtime to fix some equipment. Makes sense, right? But that one seemingly smart decision is what kicks off a fatal chain of events. The official report puts it in these chilling, straightforward terms. A giant hydraulic grab, and we're talking about a piece of equipment that weighs over 9 metric tons, suddenly slams open. An able seafarer, a really experienced member of the deck crew, is caught right underneath. And that's the central mystery here. I mean, think about it. The grab was parked on the deck. Its hydraulic lines were totally drained. For all intents and purposes, it should have been inert, just a huge lump of metal. So how on earth did it suddenly spring to life? To figure that out, we really need to dig into the ship, the crew, and the incredible pressure they were all under. All right, so to really get to the bottom of this accident, we've got to understand the environment where it all went down. Let's talk about the ship itself and the crew working on it. So the NAN BEI HU is a pretty modern ship, a geared bulk carrier. But the key thing to focus on here is the equipment. You've got 4 huge cranes, and each one has its own grab. Now, look at that last number. Each grab weighs 9,500 kilograms. To put that in perspective, that's like 7 cars stacked on top of each other. This is seriously heavy-duty machinery. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Look at that middle column, time with company. These guys are not rookies. They're experienced seafarers, been with the company for years. But then you look at that column on the far right, time on this ship, 10 days. For the entire deck team involved in this incident, from the chief officer all the way down, they'd only been on this specific vessel for 10 days. And this right here, this is the crucial human element. It was the very first time this whole crew had worked together on this ship. So while they knew their jobs in general, they had absolutely zero collective experience with the NAN BEI HU's specific history, its quirks, its equipment, and that lack of familiarity. That turns out to be a huge piece of the puzzle. So you've got this crew, they're new to the ship, and that's when a series of small problems starts to snowball. This wasn't just one big mistake. It was a cascade of failures, where every little issue just piled on top of the last one, creating the perfect conditions for disaster. Just look at how this timeline unfolds. The problems are just stacking up. March 14th, grab number 4 goes down. The very next day, grab number 3 fails. They have to call in shore workers. So by the morning of the 16th, okay, those 2 are fixed, but then that afternoon, loading stops again. And the crew thinks, great, here's our chance to fix the other 2. But right as they're starting, they spot another problem. A piece of the wire assembly is out of place. All of a sudden, the pressure to get everything fixed right now just goes through the roof. And that pressure just led to a total breakdown of normal procedures. I mean, you've got 2 different teams doing 2 different jobs on the same piece of equipment at the same time. The grab itself was left in this weird, unstable, partially closed position just so they could jam an oil drum underneath it. The risk assessment paperwork? It was rushed, incomplete, and it completely missed the major hazards. And here's the kicker. The safety guide they were using was for changing a tiny little gangway wire, not the massive specialized wire on a 9.5-ton grab. It's just completely wrong. So this whole cascade of failures put the crew in a really dangerous spot. But what actually sealed their fate, what turned a dangerous situation into a fatal one, was a fundamental misunderstanding of the machine they were working on. They basically built a mechanical trap without even realizing it. Okay, so what exactly is this grab? Well, think of it like a giant 9,500 kilogram metal clamshell. In normal operation, there are 2 main forces keeping it stable and under control. You've got the tension from the crane's wires pulling up, and you've got the pressure of the hydraulic oil that controls how it opens and closes. Now this slide, this is it. This gets to the absolute heart of the tragedy. The crew believed that once they drained all the hydraulic oil, the grab was inert, powerless, safe. They thought it couldn't move. But the reality was the exact opposite. With no hydraulic pressure to control it, and the crane wires slack, the grab was in its most dangerous state imaginable. It was just a massive, unstable weight held in that half-closed position by nothing more than the friction of its own parts. So here's exactly how that trap sprung, step by step. First, the oil is drained. Boom, all hydraulic control is gone. Second, the crane wires go slack, leaving the full weight of that grab just resting there, completely unstable. Third, to get the old wire out, the crew hooks up a chain block and starts pulling. They're applying a new downward force. And that was it. That little bit of extra force was enough to overcome the friction, the whole mechanism gives way, and the grab slams open, trapping the Seafarer working underneath. So, in the aftermath of this awful tragedy, the official investigation pieced together this whole chain of events. And what they found offers some incredibly important, hard-won lessons, not just for maritime safety, but really for anyone who works with heavy machinery. The report laid out several primary causes, and we've really seen all of these pieces fall into place, haven't we? You had the final force from that chain block, the fact that there were no manufacturer procedures for this specific job, the crew's complete misunderstanding of the physics, the rushed, inadequate safety check, and the total failure to manage two dangerous jobs happening at the same time. It was, quite literally, a perfect storm of failures. You know, this quote from the report is worth hearing again because it just captures the entire tragedy in one sentence. This wasn't about malice or laziness. It was a deeply, genuinely held but completely wrong belief about the machine. They thought it was safe because they drained the oil, the very action that actually made it incredibly dangerous. And that really brings us to the core lesson of the NAN BEI HU incident, doesn't it? A danger that you can't see is just as deadly as one staring you right in the face. The crew's lack of familiarity with this specific piece of equipment meant they couldn't see the trap they were setting for themselves. So we have to end with this question. To the crew, this work on the grab was routine, but their familiarity with the general idea of the job bred a fatal assumption about this specific situation. And it forces all of us to ask, right? In our own jobs, in our own lives, what are the routine dangers that we overlook simply because we think we already know how it all works?